So Steve, thank you so much for joining us on Cartoon Everything. I'm so happy that you're here to talk about your own enthusiasm for cartoons and the cartoon influence on you, who you are, and the art that you make. I'm also really thrilled that you, Steve Light, get to meet Chris Misi because out of all the artists I've ever met in my entire life, the thing that you two have in common big time is that there is constant drawing happening. Steve is very much constantly, which he will show us at some point, sketchbook and ink pens in pocket, as well as mini tiny watercolors.
Yeah.
Everywhere he goes.
Yeah, these are in my pocket just right now.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. I have one right in my hand, but my sketchbook that I'm working on is by the couch, so.
Yeah, so I know there's a term called like an artist's artist, which fits both of you very well. So I'm happy to have the two of you kind of meet, get to talk. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. Great to meet you finally after enjoying your work and hearing a lot of great stuff about you from Kelly. And I got to stay in your cabin at the Highlights Foundation last summer, which was really cool.
Awesome. And we'll be there again this summer, and I always bring some little thing and hide it in there. I think someone just posted about the little duck that I hid there. I made a little wooden duck that opens, and there's a little key, and it says "Make a wish, quack quack." And so,
that's so cool.
So it's just fun to do those things, you know. And also, like, a little lighthearted. I know some people go there to like really work, and they get really intense. So it's like, you know, you need something like that. So.
But it definitely adds to an air of inspiration. It just makes you want to draw. Seeing all your drawings on the wall and the little notebook that you write in. Those are cool sketches.
Yeah. And I put some of my favorite books on the bookshelf too. They have my books, but then I put some like the drawings of Heinrich Klee and the Walter Foster's animation book and stuff in there. Yeah, so I think that one's still there. Anyway, I bring different ones, and I actually have the Illusion of Life because I finally got a hardcover one because my soft cover was, so I'll bring the soft cover and leave it there. So because that book was just the Walt Disney Illusion of Life book. I remember going to Disney World with my family, and my dad was like, "Oh, you can each get a gift." And we saw that book. It must have just come out. And I was like, "This is what I want." And he's like, "You don't want a book? What do you want a book? Like, yeah, that's not a gift." I was like devastated and like wound up getting like, I don't know what, you know, you get the flintlock gun from Pirates of the Caribbean or something. You know, and it's like I really wanted the book. So when I could get that book, I could only afford the soft cover, and now I'm like, it's falling apart. I'm gonna get a nice hardcover. So
okay,
the soft cover there, yeah.
Great. So how old were you at that time?
I must have been around 10. When did that book come out? Yeah, so I think that book came out like 80 something. So whatever that, I was born 1970. I'm 55 now, so you can do the math and figure it out. It was either the first year or the second year that it came out, you know. So yeah, and then I wound up studying with my teacher Dave Passalacqua, who knew Walt Disney himself, and he had condos down there, and he would bring students down there, and we'd draw the model and talk about illustration and art and artists and drawing for like a week, and then a week we would go into Disney World and draw like all the people walking by, and he'd talk about the design of the place, and because he was there when Disney was designing it and stuff, and he'd give us assignments like make a U.S. postage stamp for the carousel, and that would be like at 9 or 10 in the morning, and he had a place, and he'd be like, "I'll meet you back there at 3:00, and you'll show me your sketches, you know, and everything." And then sometimes he'd be like, "But draw 100 people first, and then work on that," you know, like that kind of things. That book is a big book for me. But now they have a lot of new, really good ones. I forget what they're called though, but they have like a whole series of like the storyboards, the character design. Those are really cool. Yeah, so I like those a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, that was a great way to off. Like, I think, you know, we probably were a little older than 10 when that book came out, but you were young, and like having that book kind of hit your eyes, I'm sure. I mean,
Yeah.
again, I think that like fast forward to Steve went to Pratt, and that's where you had Dave Passalacqua. I can't say his name.
Dave Passalacqua.
As a teacher, who is a name that you do hear. And I know he's
Yeah, many artists I look up to have cited him. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a great teacher because he taught you how to learn and how to be your own artist. He wasn't trying to teach you like the way he illustrated. You know, I mean, I don't illustrate anywhere close to the way he used to illustrate, and you know, but he taught me how to figure out my way, and you know, and my way of thinking and everything. So I think that's why he was such a great teacher. You know, and very inspirational, and very positive, and very, you know, tough, but like gave you a lot of work. Like, you know, you had to work when you started with him. Gosh, I wish some more people would when I teach, but that's a whole other story. I'm like, you rub out one drawing that's only this big,
Right.
like 3x3. I'm like, it's been 2 weeks. I'm like, you should have 100 drawings. Like, yeah. So, as you said, people that draw all the time, it's hard for us to understand that. It's like,
oh,
you know, I did my first picture book in a week. I did the art because I was so used to deadlines doing freelance illustration that I did my first book in a week, and I brought him and he's like, you know, you have more time than that. And I was like, oh, okay. But it was all done. So it was like, you know, but I was just used to that, you know, kind of schedule of freelance and getting, you know, having these tight deadlines and stuff. And it was fun. Just work nonstop for a whole week and get a whole book done. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do think like it's something it's hard to understand when you're somebody who draws all the time, when you're watching someone and they're not.
Yeah, and I don't judge the drawing, I just judge the amount of work, you know?
Yeah.
So, because it's
Well, do you
so
remember
much
when
work.
you first
Sorry, go ahead.
started? When you first started that rigorous amount of drawing?
Yeah, so I was at Pratt and met him, you know, and so I was at Pratt and I was a junior, and he only taught, no, I was a sophomore and he only taught juniors and seniors, but a junior told me, if you really want to learn how to draw, you got to take Dave's class. So I went to his class and I was like, can I like sit in on your class, like to learn?
Mm.
And so I sat there, you know, and drew the model. And then the next week they had an assignment due, and I was sitting there and he's like, where's your assignment? Where's your homework? And I was like, well, I'm not really taking this class. He's like, you're sitting in, you're doing the work. And so I was doing this class without any credit, but I knew I was like learning, you know, I was learning what I wanted to learn to draw, you know, and everything. And that's never seemed like work to me, you know, like, and his assignments were so great, and I wanted to see what he thought about the things I did. So, yeah. So, and then, so then I had him, so then I think I took his class that summer, and then junior year, and took it again the junior summer and senior, and then another summer after I graduated. So it was a great experience. But yeah.
Do you remember being younger? So even before you got that book,
Yeah.
before you got The Illusion of Life, do you remember starting to draw? Like,
Yeah. So
are you somebody like, I always drew, or do you remember when you like started to draw?
I remember my first drawing that looked like something. It was Snoopy, and I was
Nice.
about 3 or 4, and I brought it to my mom, and she said, "Who drew that for you?" And I said, "I drew it."
Ah.
And she's like, "No, you didn't." And I was like, "Yeah, I did." She's like, "Here, draw it for me." And I sat down and I drew it for her, and she's like, "Holy shit!" And I just remember, yeah, and then just drawing, and I mean, Snoopy, like those, mostly Snoopy. And then I remember in, I think, grammar school or high school, I got Drawing the Comics the Marvel Way, which is the most
Yeah.
frustrating book because it's like a cylinder and then a finished drawing of a superhero. And I remember my friend came over and I was like, I had been working on this and I was so frustrated. She's like, you don't really look like you enjoy drawing. And I usually do. But this book, I'm trying to draw friggin' Iron Man and I can't, you know, because it's like a cylinder and then a finished drawing. And it's like, how do I get from one to the other? And I just remember like we had to do a map on a big piece of oak tag. And my mom was like, well, we can Xerox it and blow it up. And I was like, I'll just draw it. And I just sat down and drew the United States like freehand, you know? And she was just like, oh, okay. Like stuff like that, you know? and just loving to escape into my sketchbook and everything, all the time. That was my constant companion and friend and escape from the horrors of childhood. I had a little tough childhood, so it was like good to have that place to escape to, And I was always trying to think of a character. I remember, because of the Walter Foster animation book, I was always trying to come up with a character, and so I'd try to draw a bird, but then it always wind up looking just like the bird that's in that book, and and different things. And I was always asking, like, my dad, what character could I make? What character could I make? And of course they'd say something, and I'd be like, I don't know if I can draw that. They'd say lion, and I'd be like, oh, I don't know if I can make a character out of a lion, like as a kid, Yeah, so just it's fun, always drawing. Yeah.
That's
And
great.
then
Were you making stories at the
I
time?
wasn't. No, I really wasn't. I know a lot of people like make their own like comic books and stuff. It wasn't until late high school that I made a few actually pop-up books with my art teacher. But before then, I was always trying to draw like a character and then draw them in the different poses, like in that book and in the Disney book. I'm trying to think if I ever did like a story or anything. And then I got, for a little while, there was another book on how to draw like covered bridges. And I got really good at drawing covered bridges. And I had never seen one in real life.
Yeah.
I had never seen one in real life, but I
Right.
could draw a really good covered bridge and watercolor it. And my mom would have me make I was like a factory, like just turning these out for her friends. And they were all so impressed. And you just keep drawing that same thing,
Yeah.
And then and then we went to the Poconos, so I was drawing raccoons a lot as like not so cartoony, but kind of cartoony. And do you remember Moskowitz did the mouse and these cats and stuff? He was like in the 80s or so. He had posters, so I was always trying to draw the raccoons like that. I don't know if I succeeded or not. I can't remember. So,
did you have a favorite when you were a kid? Did you have a cartoon that you watched? Or I think we get that you liked Peanuts, and I think that that's it's a foundation for probably a good 3 to 4 generations of artists.
Yeah, but I loved the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I know it's stop motion, but I was obsessed with that.
Right.
And gosh, I'm trying to think. I mean, I watched all the Saturday morning cartoons. Like, I woke up and watched all of those. I'm trying to think what were my favorites. Or if I drew any of them. Totally drawing a blank now. There was one like Battle of the Planets, which is and I was like, whoa, those were like so cool. And they came on so like not at a set time. Like when I would find one, I'd be like, oh, this is so cool. And then you wouldn't find it for a few weeks. And then, because this is back in the day, kids, when you had to wait for something to come on television. You couldn't stream it, and you couldn't watch it whenever you wanted. You couldn't just Google it and find it and watch it. So it was like waiting for that to come on. And the New Zoo Review too, which was really fun. And of course Muppet Show, but animations, I watched tons of animations, but it was more the Disney films, Robin Hood and stuff. Yeah, I loved that one. I went to see that with my dad, so it was like that too, and plus it was such a kind of boy kind of movie, and Sword in the Stone too. I love that movie, and I sing that song all the time, and I wanted to actually download that song now. What's this song? Now I can't remember it. Where when he turns into a fish and stuff.
The one that Merlin
back in
Madam Mim.
And you can't get all the Disney songs. You can't find that song. I'm like, okay. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. So these things I like spend my free time like looking for and stuff now on the internet. I liked those a lot, and I tried to draw those a lot. And Bedknobs and Broomsticks too, actually. That lion.
I love
because the lion in Robin Hood looks a lot like that lion, but this is like you're going to the movie theater and you're seeing it once and you got to kind of remember. And then I saw it again in that, and it was like there was some flyer or something that I got that had the Bedknobs and Broomsticks characters on it, and I was trying to draw those, But I drew a lot of characters from the Scholastic flyer. But we had Troll, and that had a little mouse character that I drew tons of because my mom collected little mice figurines. So I would draw her this mouse from that. And I remember she used to let me sit at the dining room table to draw, and that was like big deal. And that was like
Have a
great
big
and so
fancy
wonderful.
table. Yeah.
Yeah, you know. Yeah. All the Saturday morning cartoons, but the Herculoids.
Yeah.
You know those Hanna-Barbera, the
Yeah.
Herculoids with
Yeah.
the little
The little glue, glue,
squishy
glue.
ones and the
Yeah.
big. Oh, those were great. I love those characters, and those too. It was hard to
Ukla the
find. Like
Muck.
you'd see one. Yes, Ookla the Muck. No, wait, that's from Barbarian. Ookla the Muck. Did you say?
Yeah. Isn't that from
That's from Thundar the Barbarian.
right.
Thundar and
Like,
his friend
Right.
Ookla the Muck.
Right.
And what was
But like
the witch lady
Thunder and the
called?
Herculoids were earlier, right?
Yeah.
They always say like like the generational line is, are you Thundar or He-Man? You know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, because
Who was that though? That design? I have a book. He designed all those. My friend sent it to me. I want to say
no,
Roth.
Alex Toth.
yeah.
Alex
Tooth.
Toth.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tough. Yeah. Um, and he
Yeah.
did
And
Space Ghost
Space
and all
Ghost.
those.
Yep. Yep.
And when you look at the original drawings, they're amazing. Like
Yeah,
all
they're
of those
so good.
character drawings are
And he
incredible.
just cranked them out, man. Like
Yeah.
here's some characters for another show, and this whatever would hit. You know, it was like incredible. Yeah,
Yeah.
those were really great. Care Bears too. I like
Yeah.
Care Bears. I thought, yeah, isn't that weird? I know. I think I was trying to like impress a girl or something to learn how to draw those. I don't know. I can't remember, but you know.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
What about you guys? What were your favorites? Animations.
Yeah, I loved all those, the Herculoids and Thundar the Barbarian. Especially the intros, like, had the most, action and
Yeah.
drama to them. But
Well, like Thundercats, the intro, the
right.
start was the best, right? Where he
Yep.
transforms and stuff, and then the rest. I mean, the show was great, but it wasn't the quality of the intros. The same with like Ducktales, or was Ducktales? What was the one with the bear, Blue Bear, flying the plane?
Tailspin.
Yeah, Tailspin. Like the beginnings were really animated well, and
Yeah.
then it was like okay, And I always noticed that. Did you guys notice the quality of drawings change in things? Snoopy sometimes wouldn't be drawn on spec just right, and it would bother me as a kid.
Right.
But like I couldn't explain it to anyone, like why it wasn't right. Now I know it was like it wasn't on spec. It wasn't the right kind of line work or something.
Yeah. No. By the time you got to Flash Beagle, it was like that's not the same Snoopy as you're
I
getting.
forgot about Flash Beagle.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You gotta do the Flash dance, Snoopy, man. That's the best.
Yeah.
Well, we're lucky we were spared a rap album by Snoopy, right?
I
Did
don't
he
know.
ever
There might
rap?
be one. Yeah. You never know. There's a lot of obscure, weird albums that came out with
That's true.
with these properties. Like there's this disco Sesame Street album that came out that I just
Really?
saw online, and I was like, I don't think I ever saw that. Like a
Kelly,
Sesame
what was your favorite animation as a kid?
My favorite cartoons, like Saturday morning cartoons. So I enjoyed the ones that we talked about as well. Especially, I loved things like, was it Battle of the Planets that was also G-Force? Is that the one?
Yeah,
Like,
because I didn't even realize that it was the same thing. Because I loved Battle of the Planets, but in a different region.
Yeah.
A friend of mine was like, "No, G-Force is the best."
So yeah, I love that. Hanna-Barbera, like just so many good ones that I just love so much. I have a soft spot for Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space, which is very strange, but I do. But my favorite thing, like I used to watch way too much on Saturday mornings. My favorite thing was if you woke up really early. If you really woke up like as the sun was coming up, that's when you could see the Fleischer cartoons. They would put them on like super early, and it would go like it'd start off with Fleischer cartoons, and then you'd go to like Woody Woodpecker or Walter Lantz cartoons, and you'd slowly kind of go up through time, and then you'd hit like now it's a regular Saturday morning cartoon time, where it was whatever the contemporary shows, that were on. Yeah, I loved that. And I do like what you said about like streaming today. there was something about that, like it's a thing.
Yeah.
Saturday morning thing that you're gonna go and you're gonna
Yep.
worked hard in school all week, and then
Yep. And you had a bowl of cereal, and you just
yeah,
yeah, it was the best.
that's what you
And
get to
since you said
spend.
Fleischer, we have to talk about Superman, which I didn't discover
Oh, yeah.
till like I was in college, maybe. I didn't see that as a kid, but holy shit, I watch them now, and they're just so good. Like they're
Yeah.
so well designed,
They're
so
kind
Art Deco. What?
you look at them and you go like, how was this done so beautifully back then?
Yeah.
You look at the sea
Yep.
of everything else that was being made, but you look at those and you're like, wow, like they're
Yeah. Well, that's why they scared Disney. They scared the shit out
right.
of Disney. You know, he was like, yeah, because they are really good. They're
So
just beautiful. They're just
yeah.
beautiful. That you can freeze like so many frames and just like see these
Mhm.
beautiful illustrations and design and everything. It's awesome. Yeah. I love that. I made one of the robots over COVID out of wood, just small.
Cool.
Just like 6-7 inches tall. Yeah, I made the no. Think I put number 5, but the ones that fly. And then I was gonna make him in the flight mode, but then COVID started to end, and I was like, okay, I need some other things. Maybe I still will. I still have them. So, and I made a bunch of random ones.
So
Yeah.
just so that we don't get too ahead of ourselves to say, so
Right.
Steve is coming to us live from his New York City studio, which
Live from New York.
live in
Hey.
New York. It's Steve Light in his studio, which is it's a fairly small space.
It's a very small space
It's a very small space,
for a very large man.
but it's so it's floor to ceiling stacked with everything he needs, all his art supplies, but also a tiny little like wood shop. Like there's an actual
Yeah.
little place where he actually like makes
So I don't
or
know. Let's see.
I know you might not be
I
able
can
to
open this.
try, but yeah,
So
right.
in
Say hi.
here, it's
Yeah,
kind of a mess, but you guys can see. I don't care. That's my wood shop in there.
Cool.
I don't
yeah,
know if you can see if that's the drill
yeah. We
press
can
and
see
the
your
and the
Yeah.
tool.
saw.
It's your
Yeah,
tool.
and everything. I have a
Yeah.
bunch of
Cool.
stuff out because I was like trying to do some rivets to something. Like you do. So that's right. And then in here is where. Oh well, that's behind me. Wait, can I turn this around? I can show you. I don't know. So yeah, but it's a very tiny space. So and now my
Right.
tripod
It's
is
chock
falling.
full of yeah, everything, yeah, that you love and everything that you need and everything that inspires you and everything that you use. And
Yeah.
it's amazing because, I have a fairly large space and I don't think it is like at all efficient whatsoever, but you are like super efficient in the way that you keep all your stuff.
Thanks. I try, but right now I was working on more of like a picture book, and then I switched quickly to work on more of a board book. And so I just put all the pictures book stuff, like supplies down there. And so that's kind of bothering me because it's like I didn't organize it well enough.
Hmm.
But I got the work done, so that's good, and got it out. So now I need to take some time and organize a little more in here. But yeah, you can see, well, Kelly Light's art is up there over
Nice.
that. But behind me, that's Eric Carl. Sent me some
Oh,
papers.
cool.
Yeah, so that's like means a lot to me. So
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, it's
Awesome.
like well, Barbara McClintock said it should be like a pilot's cockpit, and so that's how I have it. So everything's like within reach and organized, and then I don't know if you guys watch Adam Savage from MythBusters. He has his own channel, and
Oh, yeah.
he has like a workspace. He calls it the cave, like insane, and he's like all about like the least amount of friction to actually do the work. Like be
Hmm.
able to just reach for something and retrieve it, not have to go look for that thing, And so he always makes these like carts and these ways and these organizing things for all his tools and everything. And he calls it something of retrieval or something. I can't remember, but it's kind of a good philosophy for a workspace. So
It makes sense. Yeah. The least resistance between the idea and
yeah,
being able
like
to work on something.
and he also has really good advice. if you get something new, some new tool or some new thing, before you put it anywhere, just think in your mind, where's the first place I would go to get this lead refill, or, and put it there, because that's where you're going to go first, So I try to do that. It does not work all the time, because I'm like, I know I bought those. Where are those, like, those papers or those pens or those things? And things go missing. And I always wonder when they'll show up again, but I don't know if they will. So
That's a common problem.
yeah.
Like I buy these.
Oh yeah.
At least once a year, because I end up leaving them somewhere, or it's just in a different room or different
The
drawer.
gravity feed, like, right?
Yeah,
The
so I'll
claw,
just
like, with the 2mm LEDs.
So I have a number of these because I don't put them in a place where I know to look for them. So I just end up buying more and more.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying. I've been going through my stuff and, like, putting all the lead refills in, like, a box that's labeled, and doing that kind of thing. Yeah, because it just gets too much. Because I'm like, I buy the refill, but I had it. Then, like, a week later, I'm like, I had it. I didn't need to buy another one. So I really need an art supply store of my own, like, or my supplies organized that way. Wouldn't that be awesome? That'd be so great. Like, well, how, like, you see those walk-in closets with all the shoes? We need to walk in and have all the art supplies, like, on the shelves, all the colored pencils and the thing, and you just go, oh yeah, I need this today. Yeah. That's the dream.
Yeah, if we won the lottery,
Yep, totally. Yeah.
Stocked art supply store.
Yeah, I know. I try not to get too. I'm crazy though with art supplies. I love buying art supplies and when you get the right thing. I found these. These are colored pencils, but they're mechanical. So you just click them. And they sell the refill LEDs, so if they run out.
Wow, who makes them?
It's on Amazon. Kalor, Kalor, colored pencil. And they're pretty reasonable. They're a little more, like, crayon-y, but that's actually good for me for, like, my board book work.
Greasy colored pencil, not like, you feel like it's like, is it soft?
Yeah, it's really soft. So if you've ever gotten the 2mm LEDs that are colored for yours, they're not nice, right? Like, these are, like, soft and kind of crayon-y, and I really enjoy them.
Cool.
And to not have to sharpen, it's like, I can't. I have such a thing with sharpening and carrying the right sharpener, and then all the shavings, and, like, because I draw a lot of different places, so it's like I always feel like I'm leaving a mess, or I don't know what to do, or then the ones that hold the things are too big, and I'm always making little cases and stuff. So this is like tips for those,
this is where we're going with Steve.
Yeah. So
Steve makes all of these portable things.
I'm insane. Like, because I made one for Christine years ago, and she still uses that, and she does beautiful work from it, and it doesn't need to be anything else. But it's also kind of relaxing for me. It kind of distracts me from, if I'm frustrated with work or whatever, to, like, I can make this case, and put these art supplies together and stuff. So I look at it that way. Not as a problem, but as a solution, a relaxing thing to do.
Creative solution.
Problem.
Sure. I have, like, a whole drawer of just cases for pens and art. It's insane.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed.
It's good. It makes your mode of making so much easier, because you can.
When I get it right, like, that case is perfect for the board book stuff. And I'm now at a point where I'm like, okay, leave this. Don't take anything else. Don't ever take. Sometimes I take something out of that to put in another one, and then I go back to this one, and I'm like, and it's like, so I'm trying not to do that. Like, that case is gonna stay like that with those supplies, because they work great for the board book stuff. I can just, like, scribble color and, like, work really fast and everything. And then I have little watercolor set cases and stuff that I use. I just made a new one. I didn't need to, and I bought a case that had pen slots, and I spent a whole afternoon, like, totally deconstructing this whole case, because I liked the size, and it had an outside pocket, and I, like, literally, like, stripped out all, like, they had padding and everything. I was like, I don't need that. I took that off. I'm turning the whole thing inside out, like, seam ripping all the things and everything. But I actually enjoy it, because I love to see how things are put together, and I'm like, why is that piece there? Oh, That doesn't. Oh, what's that? Wait, how am I going to get in there? You know, how am I going to like cut this without cutting the part that I want to keep and stuff? Yeah, and it came out good. That's what I was riveting. Because then when I removed
that's
the
the
whole
rivets.
inside, it removed the seam that then the pens could go to the other side. Like it needed that, you know, to keep.
Yeah.
So I just put 2 little rivets to hold it because I feel like sewing.
So not to feed your habit, but
Yeah.
so I heard about these pencils from Bob Shea. These are made by Mitsubishi. They make motorcycles and they make pencils. So I like things that are really good and greasy. Like think about it, like good old fashioned grease pencils.
Mm-hmm.
But these come in a variety of colors.
Ooh.
They're like that, and they're halfway between a colored pencil and a grease pencil. So
Are they wood?
You have to do the little.
I have those. Oh,
Yeah.
so like the China marker, but color. I have a set of those. Yeah.
Yeah,
They're
these
great.
are great.
They're really good. I like those a lot.
I haven't used them much, but I like them for the texture.
Yeah.
There's a thing called a mean streak, which I think they use to mark lumber and stuff, and that's like a really greasy black. And they make some colors, but the colors aren't great. But the black one, and the cool thing is, it's really greasy, and you can like smear it even and stuff.
Ooh.
Once it's dry, you can draw over it with a fountain pen. It doesn't clog the pen or anything. And it's waterproof, and it's really cool.
Mean Streak.
What?
Yeah.
I just like the name.
It's called Mean Streak, Samford. And then there's another brand that you'll see it'll look the same that are just as good, you know. But I tried all the colors, but mostly the black is the best, you know. But over COVID, I drew some animals and filmed myself drawing animals with it, and then I painted them.
Cool.
That's anywhere now on Instagram. So, yeah, those are really cool. I kind of want to do another book or something with those because it's like this really thick line, so you can't do the detail, you know. You got to just like the simplest shape. Look, this guy, Piatti. Yeah, like this, you know, the thick line. This is a really great book. His stuff is like really. Look at that giraffe.
Cool.
That's a good giraffe.
Wait, I'll show one. Oh, look at the chickens! Check out the chickens!
Yeah.
Yeah, he did some posters too, which are like really cool.
That's great. Yeah, just so impactful.
And Crazy Cat?
Of course.
These are 1918, guys. These are 1918. This is drawn in 1918. Look at the skinny boxes and stuff.
So good.
And this is my question. I hope you have a huge audience. If anyone can please put in the comments what that symbol is, like why he puts that in certain places.
Why did
It's in a few.
use that symbol?
I don't know why it's there. It's in a bunch of his strips.
It is.
Like, it's not just this one.
It is.
Right.
So I kind of want to know why. And then wait, one more. I marked some pages.
That's a good question for the Billy Ireland.
Look at that. Like
there
the
you go.
diagonal. Like
his layouts and creative compositions are still like cutting edge.
Yeah. And so this was November 3rd, 1918. I can't get over that. I'm like, it's still fantastic, you know? Oh, add effects using hand gestures.
There you are. I think probably just because you put the thing so close to the camera.
Oh yeah, it was telling me to add something.
So so we had gone to the Billy Ireland in October, and when you go to the Billy Ireland Museum in Columbus, you can go into their archives and you can request stuff. So you sit down in their tables in their library, and you put in a request, and they bring you original art.
Wow.
Out of their archives. And so I got to sit with two crazy cats. And I cried. And
that's the thing. There's not going to be original art to look at in museums anymore. It's all digital. Like, which is fine. Like, I get it. It's such an easier tool. I totally get it. But I love seeing seeing the whiteout if they added whiteout or they glued it up.
The thing that got me, like the thing that made me like emotional was I had no idea how much of the look of Crazy Cat was he would lay down the ink and he would scratch into it. And there was just this surface filled with scratches. Because when you're only looking at the reproductions, you think every line is pulled, right, with a pen.
Yeah.
But no, so much of it he had scratched into the ink. And I just thought about it. And I was like, his hands and like his DNA and like the scratching. And
Yeah.
it was like so cool to like be able to spend that time poring over, you know, something like that. It was pretty great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. There's nothing like that. It's just like seeing even like the little registration marks and all that kind of stuff, you
Yeah.
know, or the
Oh, yeah.
notes and the things. I sometimes write little notes or draw little characters in the very, very edge of some of my finished illustration just because I'm hoping someday someone will look at it and be
Oh,
like,
nice.
what is this? You know? And it's just like, it'll be like a bug saying hi or like, you know,
Yeah.
I don't know, you know,
Oh,
or a
for
bunch of
sure.
rocks like just smiling, like with smile faces or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just fun. So only I know.
What was the moment? So I know. So for you, when you were in Pratt and you left Pratt, you started freelancing, doing the New York freelance thing,
Mm-hmm.
and dragging your portfolio around, and yeah, and you were kind of at that tail end of what was an entire 20th century practice, because it shortly went away in the 90s.
Oh yeah,
Of,
yeah. So
of where you would like heave your portfolio
yep, and
over
drop
a
it off,
door and like,
and
yeah,
you would go. They didn't look at it, and so I drop it off again. And after
right,
3 or 4 times, they'd be like, they finally even know we did look at your portfolio. It's just not right for us right now. And then I wanted to do like posters and like reportage art where you go on location and draw. So I went to Las Vegas and I drew because it was just changing from pure gambling to like family friendly, you know, place. So I drew all these things and I made some posters. And so to me, I'm like, they're posters. So I made them huge, like 30 by 40 or something. So I had this huge portfolio. And I went to the New York Times to Stephen Heller, and he was really nice to me. And I had a regular portfolio, and then I had that. And he's like, well, what's in there? I'm like, oh, some posters. And so I took them out, and he's like, why'd you make them so big? And I'm like, well, because they're posters.
They're posters.
Like, I was like, what do you mean? They got to be there. And he goes, all right, go down the hall. So I'm in New York Times building, you know, offices. He's like, all right, bring this one. Go all the way down the hall. Now hold it up so he could see it far away like a poster, which was really cool. And so, and he gave me my, and again with deadlines, he gave me my first. He's like, well, I have some work, but it has to be back here. This was like 10 in the morning, 10:30. It has to be back here by like 3 or 4 o'clock today. So you have to read the, you know, for the book review. And I went home and I drew it and he loved it. And then he gave me another one and I had 2 weeks and I brought it and he's like, no, you muffed it. And so I showed him one of the first drawings I did. He's like, oh yeah, see, this is much better. And I was like, yeah, because I funk it, thought about it too much. Yeah, because I was used to doing things quickly like that. And so I was just like, oh, I got to do this one really good. And it was just like, got away from me, you know? But he was cool about it. And he's like, okay, this I like, do this one for tomorrow, you know, bring it in tomorrow. And, you know, we'll have enough time. And I was like, great. But then that was all I ever did. So I don't know. I think I wasn't good about like keep calling them. You know what I mean? I was like, well, I did too. He'll reach out to me if he wants to. No, you know, but I didn't realize that then, you know? Yeah.
I think that's amazing. So this is in your 20s, and here's Stephen Heller, the person who's kind of telling you like you overthought it. The one that you did faster is better. But now, looking now at the arc of your artwork and knowing you and knowing your artwork, right? You are someone, and I think Steve and you, Chris, could relate to you with this too. Like you are what I would call like an immediate artist. You can do tons of prep work, you can do tons of sketches, you do tons of studies, but when it comes to making your mark, you're a boom bam. Like you.
Yeah. I believe in putting it down and walking away. Or, you know, that's because it just gets overworked. And I learned that really well from that experience, you know? And so, like you said, I do a lot of preparation. I do tons of sketches. But when I sit down to do it, I just do it, you know? And I can get a lot of work done quickly that way because I'm also drawing it constantly in my head for months. you know, and thinking about it and moving things. Like I'm always drawing in my head too. So when I go to actually do it, it's like it just comes out and I'm done and I walk away. And I know if I'm spending too much time or like I'm hesitating on a part that it's not right. Like it's not time to do it then.
It's
You know?
all about, and again, like being two ink artists, like it's all about that energy and that immediacy, the energy, and you're hitting the line.
Yeah.
If you're overthinking it, you literally slow down your hand and it changes the way that the line
Right.
looks.
And it's even sometimes if my thinking is wrong. Like the drawing might look fine, like it would pass. I could send it in, it would be okay. But my thinking didn't feel right while I was drawing that. I didn't, you know. So I feel like I'm putting those thoughts into a piece that's not right then because my thought process wasn't right about how I want to tell the story, or you know. So it becomes more like that. Like I think all three of us, you could, even if you're at 50%, you would probably be good enough to like send it in, you know, and they would be okay, but you would know, you know, because you get to a certain skill level where you can just let your hand do it, but it's really about those thoughts for me and thinking correctly about it, you know, and feeling good about it.
Yeah, and sometimes I'll wonder too, like if the average person would look at a drawing that I did and notice the part that I'm unhappy about, or they just accept it as like, yeah. You know?
Well,
But
it was like Snoopy when I was a kid, and it was off spec, and no one knew, and I couldn't explain it to anyone, but I knew it was wrong.
Right.
But no one else does. Very few people do, you know.
Yeah.
I think the three of us, maybe, you know, if we knew each other's work well enough. Sometimes, and then sometimes you see like people have that do a character for a long time, you know, a series of books and how it changes, and you're like, no, it's not as quite as, you know. The first one's always like their vision and their thing, and then it's great. I love seeing the characters do other things and stuff. But some of the, especially like when they first started doing second and third books of characters, like back in the 80s and stuff, they never quite felt right. But it was also probably a lot of years later, you know, and stuff. It's like crazy. And I just got Peter Spires, the one with the wolf, with the fox. Fox won a Caldecott, but when he originally did it, you know, they used to do 2 pages black and white, 2 pages color, and he, since it was in print so long and everything, he said, "Can I do it all in color?" And he was so worried about going. And there's a little like thing in the back talking about this, that he says he was really worried. Like it's been 20, 30 years, and I have to go back and make it the same, you know. And he said, but after a while, it all came back to me, and I was able to color the originals and stuff. And it's a beautiful book. Of course, I can't remember the full name, but Peter Spire. It's got a fox. Fox went out on a something night or something, or over the meadow or something. It's wonderful. I just can't remember the title. But any of his, I've been starting to look at his work, and his work is incredible. He did a circus book. The amount of information and the amount of drawing and the amount of detail, and like, and I just love big, like pulled back tons of people kind of draw, you know. I love that kind of shit anyway. So I'm just like, oh my god, it's like every page, some pages have 5 drawings like that. I'm like, holy shit. Yeah, he's incredible.
Who's the artist, Chris, that you had the book, Harrison Cady, was it?
Oh yeah.
Do you know?
Actually haven't.
Oh yeah, I looked at him so much for my Itsy Spider book. He's incredible, and no one knows who he is.
Oh yeah, see,
I have that book. I have that book. It's fantastic. It's fantastic. He's so good, and that actually inspired me for Itsy Spider. I was like, I can make all these bugs doing things, you know. Yeah, and just there's one. Do I still have it up here? No, I usually have it in here. I think I was looking at it. I thought I was looking at it too much. After Itsy, I kind of need to move it. But it's like a little bug smoking and a little fairy on a mushroom, and the smoke is going up, and it's just the little marks on the mushroom and stuff. The line, it's just fantastic. It's a fantastic. It's in like those from the 80s, like those pen and ink, black and white drawing illustration books where there's a bunch of different artists and stuff and showing different styles and stuff. I think that's where I first saw it and then tracked him down, and then they came out with that book right when I was working on it. I was like, oh my god, this is fantastic. Yeah, he's really good. There's so many artists like that, you know. I just got this finally. I found it cheap enough on eBay. It gets very expensive. Harper,
Ooh,
Charles Harper.
Oh,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's just like they're just
I love Charlie Harper.
really
Wow.
great. There's like some really incredible stuff. Well, first of all, this is not typical of his work, but if you look at this volcano erupting, this is all
Oh,
Wow.
just wet ink dropped into a wet, you know, and it just
yeah.
did that as the explosion, and it's like
That's why.
perfect. I love stuff like
Wow.
that. I love when
Yeah.
like it's just a splatter or something. There's some drawings for Bambi for the fire. What's that guy's name? I want to say Tai Wong, but I might be wrong. And he did inspire, you know, the illustrate, and it's the fire, and it's just this red
Yeah.
paint, you know, and then like a tree and a little deer jumping, and you're like, oh my god, yeah, it's the whole forest is on fire. But there's, if you really look at it, it's a few brush strokes, and it tells the whole story. I love stuff like that. I gotta find one page at least to show you guys that I love in here. That's it. It's a really cool. And then he went on to do all kinds of stuff. Great.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Look at those
So
shapes.
cool.
Right.
Look at those
The
shapes.
way they kind of fit together. I
Yeah.
love stuff like that, you know. Well, you can, the bug end pages on Etsy.
Yeah.
Just from
When
that,
I
you know?
was little, I had you remember Encyclopedia Britannica?
Oh, yeah.
My mom and dad had bought like the whole set.
The Childcraft.
We had the child,
Mm.
we had the child one, and it was. I would love to find some of them now.
I
Because
have like 4 of
you
them.
have them? Because
Yeah, I have the first 4
very,
because they're like
very
fairy tales and
right, beloved
yeah,
mid-century illustrators actually illustrated
yeah,
those. And I remember seeing pages like that, an example of that, where I would just be like so hyper focused on the shapes because
yeah.
the art from that time period is so clear and it's so, you know, it's so shape based.
The All About Me book when we were kids, it's Dr. Seuss, but it's Eastman illustrated it.
Oh.
You know, and you would fill in things like my name is, and I have how many sisters. You would fill it in actually. And there's one page about pets, and it's, I think it's just 2 colors, like black on like purple or something, if I'm remembering correctly. But it's all animals like fitting together like that. And it was some kid brought it in. It was actually his mom's, but a kid brought it in like a few years ago. And when I opened that page, I was like, oh my god, like just my childhood like came back, like looking over this page so much
Mm.
and drawing and stuff. It was like, wow. And just seeing kind of the influence too, you know, because it was just one color, like just a background color and line work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really cool stuff.
Ink. When did ink become your thing?
Okay, I remember exactly. In high school, I was trying to do dip pen right, probably from the How to Draw Comics, the Marvel one. Don't buy that book. Don't try to draw from that book because I was trying dip pens, and you know, like I don't know, I just don't have the patience or the, I don't know, the finesse. I can't do brush ink and brush either. I need to like feel the paper. So like I can do it for a little while and I can like, you know, but it's such a light touch that like I'll draw really well with it with the brush for a little bit and then I'll, you know, I'll have this big thick line. I'm like, oh shit. Like I just can't, like, I don't know. It's like this weird thing. It's like it's not relaxing and it's like too like trying to like draw it so gently and softly. And so I was trying to do in high school dip pens, and it was a nightmare because back then I didn't know. First of all, you should put it a match under it and burn off the oil, or use a toothbrush and toothpaste to scrub off the oil of the nibs because otherwise the ink just drips right off.
Yeah.
And it was just so frustrating. And then I was in the pharmacy and they had a Schaefer school pen. Wait, I'll show it to you. I still have it.
Hey.
Hold on a second. Oh no, I dropped one. Wait, where is it? Hold on. I gotta go out of screen.
Okay, it's okay. He has a very organized toolbox of all of his fountain pens.
This is a pen I actually bought when I was in high school. They were really cheap, and they came with cartridges. And I was like, well, that looks like a dip pen. I didn't even know what a fountain pen was. I was like, that looks like a dip pen. And then, wait, the ink is in the little cartridges. I'm going to try that. It was just a few bucks, you know? I was like hooked. I was like, oh my God, I can just keep drawing, you know? And I remember I was drawing these like little aliens and like in my homework, really, and like where I was drawing all these little aliens on the side of my thing, and it was just like, oh, and like the ink, and you can make this. This has a really like ball tip at the end, so you get a really good like dot ball, and I was like making little eyes and stuff and everything because I was drawing them really tiny, and that was it. And then when I was in college, I saved up for a real fountain pen that filled from a bottle, and I remember saving up money. I went to Art Brown, which isn't around anymore, but it was like a big fancy pen store. And I went in with like paint on my clothes and stuff. And Marilyn Brown, the wife, was like so nice to me. She's like, all right, how much money do you have? I think I had like $50, and that was tons of money for me. Like I saved up for a long time. I was in college. I was so poor. And she's like, so she took out like 4 or 5 pens. She's like, all right, you can afford one of these, you know? And so I remember her asking me, and she said, well, what color is your pen now? And I didn't say blue, and this was blue. I must have had one more fountain pen that was black. I said, well, it's black. And she goes, oh, well, then you need this one. It's burgundy. And she sold it to me. I have that one too. Wait, I'll show it to you. So this is the one. It's a Senator. And it has an ink view window. Can you see that?
Yes.
I thought that was amazing. And then you take off the end, and then this little black knob is the knob you turn to make the piston go up and down. And let me tell you, almost my whole Pratt career was drawn with this pen. And it's still a great pen. Every once in a while I'll take it out and draw with it. And I recently bought 1 or 2 on eBay just to have, because I was like nostalgic for them, and they were really cheap. So I was like, I'll get a few more. Because I was then so nostalgic to use that one, I was worried something was going to happen to it. Meanwhile, I walk around with like all these pens that are like kind of expensive and stuff, and I never think about that. But like this pen, I don't draw with anymore because I'm so scared of losing it. And that pen, so I bought another one of those, and they don't make these anymore. And honestly, I have other Schaefer pens that I use instead of this. So, but yeah. So there you go.
And
that's how it all started.
The whole world.
That's how it all started. And then the whole thing with fountain pens was that you couldn't put waterproof ink in them.
Right.
And then Kohinoor had an art pen. It was called Art Pen, and it had a fountain pen nib, and you dripped waterproof India ink in it, and you could take it all apart and clean it so it wouldn't clog. And that was real. I drew with that for a long time. And then not even when I did Christmas Giant and Zephyr Takes Flight, I was still using water-based ink with a fountain pen, and that's why those were colored with colored pencil and pastel, because I couldn't put watercolor over it. And then Platinum came out with Platinum Carbon Black, a waterproof ink that's safe for it. Now a lot of brands are out there that are waterproof and safe. I still use that one because I know it and I know it's safe. And that was a game changer, because now I had waterproof ink and I could watercolor on it, because I always really wanted to do pen and ink and watercolor. That was always like the thing that I wanted to do, because that's why I was trying to do the dip pen, because I wanted to watercolor over it, the pen and ink and watercolor. I can kind of see this illustration that I had, but I don't know where it was from, with like the cross hatching, and I was like, oh, they do the cross hatching, and then there's just a little bit of watercolor, but the clouds were just watercolor. It was in like one of those like Childcraft or something books, but I can kind of see it, parts of it, but I don't really remember who did it or what it was. But I was like, yeah, I want to do that, you know? And I've been drawing with fountain pens and buying way too many of them. But it's fun to buy the old ones and fix them up.
Right.
Some of those are hard to clean, but they write really well.
Yeah.
They're more like a dip pen. And then some people have now come out with fountain pens that actually have the dip pen nib on it, like the Zebra G nibs on it. And I actually did Itsy Bitsy Spider with one of those. Yeah.
Okay.
So, cool. I would grab it for you, but it's actually in a case in there. And
are you taking notes, Miss? Like you're writing down.
What? Say it again.
I'm taking notes of some of these.
Kelly will connect us through text, and I'll text you the company. Yeah. He makes really good ones, and he's starting to make cheaper ones too, that are just like eyedropper. You just drip ink into the barrel, but it takes the Zebra G and a nice thing. They're not so good for carrying around, because in order to make enough ink come out that you can really get the line variation, it's so if it gets jostled, like you get a lot of ink in the cap and stuff. So I just left those at my desk when I was doing that.
You gave me a pen that I can't. It's not portable because it leaks.
Which one?
It's the really old plain black one. It doesn't have any decoration on it whatsoever. You were like, it's really old. It's like
yeah. So that's like, and it's an eyedropper, right? You just strip.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
I know.
is it nice? Like,
Yeah.
but boy, is it nice.
Yep.
You know, you just have to keep a paper towel in one hand.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But when it's because it's really flexible, and that's the thing is like the variation in the line that you can get depending on the fountain pen nib, like because Steve will actually bend nibs too.
Mm.
He'll actually take little needle nose pliers and
I like modify them to draw certain ways. Yeah. And I have there's Nib Meisters that have modified a lot of my pens for me.
That's great.
For certain kinds of drawings and stuff. And then my friend who does that taught me how to do it so that I can do it. You know, he's retired now.
Is it a real term, Nib Meister? Is it a real?
Yeah, in the fountain pen community.
Why did you need to draw that character?
Right?
That's true.
Nib Meister.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because it's like the different shapes. But now a lot of companies have a lot of different nibs that you just buy new on the pen. Like there's one called an architect nib, and that's like a thin line down and a thick line this way, side to side. And I've used some of them, and I can get some good, effects with that. And then the feud nib is bent and very much like a brush.
Yeah.
And then I do my friend, because I wanted a feud nib, but I didn't want it quite that extreme. So he called it a Han feud, a half feud, because it's just a gentle curve. And then depending on how I, move it, I can get a lot of different variation. He taught me how to make those. He taught me how to add flex to a nib too, which I haven't done now because I did like a bunch of them. And then it's like, well, how many do I need? And now I haven't done it for years. So I'm like, would I remember all the steps? And somewhere I wrote down all the steps, but I can't quite remember where that notebook is. Yeah, so it's kind of cool. And then like I said, I have a few like really thick ones because I was doing these bigger drawings. And then I have this guy, Sean Newton, makes amazing pens, and he has a scholarship. He gives kids pens to encourage them to write. Cool. And he also has a scholarship. And sometimes I send him pens that I'm not using anymore, and he auctions them off, and that goes to the scholarship. And I drew some designs that he's going to put on a pen, so that's going to be exciting. But he made me two of them because I got the first one. I was like, I need another one of these just in case something goes wrong with the first one. And he had a jeweler actually make the nib out of gold, and he made the feed and everything. He made the clip, everything, and they're huge too. And he posted a lot about them, and so I get offers for these pens and a really good amount of money, but they're just so special. Like no one else has this pen. So if I want to do a drawing, it's like, it's just freaking cool, And it's just an eyedropper. You just fill it up with ink, and they're just incredible, especially, but for like more bigger drawings, because at the time I was doing that. So like, yeah, through Sean, send people that, because he's like, I'm not making them anymore. He doesn't have the jeweler that made the nibs anymore. And he's like, so I send them to you if you want to sell them. I'm like, no, I'm not selling them ever. So those are really cool. So yeah, I love these things. And then there's a lot of like nostalgia to some of them, like certain ones that I use for certain books. I'll even put a piece of tape on it that like it's from that book. Yeah. And then I try to change it for each book, so I don't necessarily use the same pen from book to book, Like I try to pick another nib or pen so that it gives a different kind of graphic for that story, and that's really fun. I love like deciding what that's going to be after drawing, after doing all the sketches and stuff. And as you're sketching, like, oh, I should try that pen. Oh no, this one's even better. Yeah, no, this one, and then making sure you have a backup, because I don't want to be. I have a big fear of being in the middle of a book and the pen dies.
Right.
And then I don't have one that draws exactly like it to match the line work. But then sometimes, one time, well, why did I do that? I drew like a little part of one illustration with a different pen, and no one knew, but I knew. We were talking about that earlier. It's like I totally knew, and I was like, oh, God. this is a glaring thing that the illustration police are going to come and arrest me for. And no one noticed.
You thought you could get away with this, but we saw. Yeah.
So it's funny what we get like caught up in and stuff. Yeah. It's
So
like,
that's
and then I make up rules for certain books and drawing certain characters.
Mhm.
Can't think of them right now, but yeah, there's always like, well, no, in this style or whatever, I can't do that. I have to draw it from this angle or this way, or yeah. I like doing that. Like you kind of create this world of viewing the world that you're creating. It's kind of cool.
But yeah, each book or each project kind of has its own parameters that
Right.
you want to stay within
Yeah.
creatively.
So that's a really fun part. Anyway,
are you doing much sketching with just straight to ink? Are you doing mostly roughs and then inking on top?
So that teacher, he took away my pencil and said, just draw with pen. And so I learned to like fix. I mean, I do use pencil sometimes, and I do pencil drawing sometimes for the books when I really need to like figure it out. And I know I'm going to be erasing because I need to get it just where it is. But when I draw in my sketchbook, it's almost 95 to 98% just ink straight from the pen, like not penciling first. I always have a pencil, and sometimes like actually drawing with pencil a character, I can get it more dimensional and more, for some reason. But mostly I try to just draw with directly with pen, just helps with my like thinking and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So
do you have a little sketchbook that you can share?
Do you want to see a board book sketchbook?
Whatever you are willing to just like show.
Only because it's just right here.
Okay.
So this is about birds.
Right.
Cool.
Right.
The parrot with the carrot. That's not really good. That book's not really going anywhere. But these are with those crayons.
Oh, cool.
Oh, cool.
We're really hoping that goes somewhere.
That's a good.
Yeah.
Cool
wait. So here's some robots. The Rock'em Sock'em robots.
Oh, yeah.
Remember this?
Yep.
Oh, and then these are the color robot sketches.
Cool.
So I always do my sketches to scale. I always make a little it's in the back pocket. I always make a little template that's to scale, so I can just trace it onto my sketchbook, and then I know if I blow that up, I'll blow that sketch up full size. I do that for my finished art too in my books. I make a giant one because I can't sit down and measure each time.
I know.
Because I'm not good with the numbers and I'm dyslexic, and I know I'm going to get it wrong for one of them. So I make a template first, I check it a few times, then I cut it out, and then I just have it hanging up here, and I just put it down, I trace it, and then I can just start working. And it just, again, that getting immediately to work kind of thing. If I had to measure it out and think what the numbers were and do it, I would be like, I can't work now. I'm too tired. So here's some horses.
Oh, I love the horse.
Cool.
Thanks. Yeah. So, do I have any others? I don't have any sketchbooks in here. I can go get them if you would like me to leave the screen. Would you like that?
If you, sure.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, please. That's great, though.
I know.
I need to do that because as similar as all comics are, they're not all exactly the same dimensions.
It's smart. Even like to think that this little template for your sketchbook, so you're sketching to scale. Hello.
So I went to Amsterdam with my lovely wife, who also watercolors and sketches, and so I was looking up like stories from there, and the different like there's some fairy stories and stuff. The Moss Maidens, those are the Moss Maidens, and then I drew like on location like some of the things. There's lots of bicycles.
Oh yeah.
And then this crane and stuff, and then like these are like done with little paint markers and stuff. Just thinking about the place and some more like working on stories, but while I was there, but also drawing the buildings. And then these are just sketches on location, like drawing the place.
Beautiful.
I don't even remember what these are all about, but I have it written down somewhere.
Those are great.
And then painting the buildings again. So like going back and forth to doing that. More bicycles and things. while we were there. And then our plane got delayed for a really long time. So we spent the day in the Amsterdam airport. But Chris and I sat and we came up with a story, and I worked on that and everything. So that was cool. I don't know what this one is. We'll just look at it. I don't really know what's in this one.
And your favorite sketchbook is, right? So that's another.
So now my new favorite sketchbook is the handbook ones. I think
And
Steve
Chris, you like
actually
those
bought them.
too? Yeah, Chris likes them
Oh
too.
yeah,
Handbook. Yeah.
They have a lot of pages. The paper's great. It takes watercolor great, pen and ink great. It has a little bit of tooth. I like the color, and it's got a good pocket and elastic and bookmark. It's got everything. I used to do the Moleskine, but really their paper sucks. And
Too
so there's
thin.
one. First one, the three old men in the woods or something is like a Grimm's fairy tale. The first girl is really nice, and they give when she talks, then gold comes out, and then they send the stepsister, and she's really mean to them, and so frogs come out of her mouth. Oh, so I'm trying to do this whole bicycle
I
kind
like
of story thing.
those.
That's a
Yeah,
true, but honestly, I hate to tell you, I had to change it to a frog. But here's some elephants and stuff. So I draw a lot on Post-it pads too. These happen to be glued in, but the little you can get white Post-it now. You used to be able to get this color Post-it. It was called tan or cream, and it was great. And they stopped making that color. But there. So wait, there's the frog. I kind of like the frog, and he's gonna
nice.
ride the
I like the
bicycle.
frog. I like the leg.
Yeah, the shrew is just like too hard to tell what it was, and then the cast of characters, the lineup,
Cool.
the what's it called in a
It's a character lineup.
witness lineup.
Oh,
Yeah, so
they're yeah.
and the whole thing.
Oh, that's
So
great.
and then I just needed something to work on. So maybe this will be something. So I did the Wizard of Oz, but with all things that rhyme with fox, because I had this little splotch. This was just a paint splotch, and I looked like a fox, so I drew it, and it was splotched the fox. And I was thinking of all the things that rhyme with that. And so those are the characters in my retelling of the Wizard of Oz. So like the ox is really the witch and has a nose ring, and that instead of the ruby slippers, the fox gets the nose ring. And then there's instead of the munchkins, they're all boxes. So those are the box people. And then there's a bubble rabbit. So I don't know if she fits in with the whole story, but she's there. I would have to look at my notes again. And then the locks, of course.
Linda, but Bubble Rabbit.
Yeah.
Nice.
And then what else? Socks. That's going to be like the scarecrow is the socks. And then the rock friend is like the lion.
Oh, I like the rock dude.
Yeah, I like him a lot. And so like I said, the ox is going to have the nose ring, and then the fox is going to get that, and that has the magic to bring them back. And this is where the ox lives. Like, I love creating the worlds, so that's why I was like, this would be a good project for me. Oh, and all the clocks. I actually really like clocks. Wait, which one? I love this little drawing of the guy sitting in the clock, and the little fox like, what the hell's going on? Oh, this guy too. And that was on it. So I teach 3-year-olds, and what happened? Am I still there?
It's just going to catch up. It's just because you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I teach 3-year-olds, and I always have a little Post-it pad. So like, if they go to music class or something, I'll sit and draw, and then I'll put them in my.
Okay. Wait. Hold on. Okay. We have a momentary issue with you. Okay. All right. We lost Steve. Okay. I'll text him.
Hey, there he is.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Cool.
Let me just move this so I can see both of you. Okay. Oh, look, the FAUX. Those are gonna be like
FAUX.
And then it's gonna like pound things. Yeah. Anyway, so I give myself assignments like that when I don't have a book, or I'm waiting to hear about a book, or I just need something fun to draw. A lot of times it's like Mother Goose rhymes, but I see like how I can like go a million miles away from it, but it'd still be that. Like I did, that's Wizard of Oz, but I don't know if anyone would really know if I did it. I mean, some people say it's similar to Wizard of Oz. by the time I'm done with it. And then just like, yeah, everything will rhyme with Fox because there's enough things, and that'll give me enough to draw. Because sometimes I just want to draw, and I don't want to like overthink it, Or I'll pick like little sayings, or like I said, Mother Goose rhymes are great, and the Grimm's fairy tales and stuff, because I can just sit and draw those, and they usually lead to something else or a book that I, will actually propose, but I always need that thing to be working on and to be thinking about. So,
what's the longest you've gone without drawing? The longest amount of time?
If my teacher used to say this too, if I go a day, I feel it. If I go 2 days, my art director will notice. If I go 3 days, the public will know. I don't know, something like that, or maybe he meant once. But I've gone like a day or two, and then I know there's something I need to draw. But sometimes it's just a little like post-it drawing, and that'll be enough at certain times, because you can't. My teacher said too, a boxer only trains 8 months out of the year. You can't always be creating, always be producing 100%. I think that's why I do like the Mother Goose thing, because it doesn't really matter, but I'm still drawing, so I'm keeping up the hand, and the you're still exercising, but it's not as much pressure, and you're not overthinking or wearing yourself out, or sometimes just playing. But I also get to do that with my 3-year-old class. Like,
oh yeah,
I'll just do prints with them from styrofoam that we found, and we'll put paint on the styrofoam and print it, and I'll see shapes and stuff in that, and it's, so, or I'll just have the kids will come over. They know I have my little Post-it pad like in this little corner where I sometimes sit if they're off doing their other stuff, and they'll come over and I'll give them a Post-it to draw, and those are like, a lot of times inspiring, and stuff. So yeah. And just playing, I need to actually give myself more time to just like mess around, and just like get messy and try to do marbleized paper or a print or carve a wood block or something like that. I love the just drawing, so I've just been doing a lot of that, and it's a little easier, but it's really good for me when I try to do something else, some other medium.
And that's where your tinkering comes in, is like
Yeah.
You'll still be creating, and you'll still be, you're still making shapes. You're still
right.
You're still
exactly
just doing it in a different way.
Or like just making, like I made some brushes out of feathers, and that gives a really cool line. It's just feathers taped to a stick. That's all you need, kids. Just some tape and some feathers, and it just makes this really scraggly like line,
Right.
So I was, stuff like that. Like, I also like when I can like make something, or carving a wood pen too. A lot of my books are just drawn with a stick dipped in ink. All the Go books are drawn with a stick where it's black. Is just a stick dipped in ink. The secret is soak this in water for a while, like 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour. And then when you dip it in the ink, all the pores are open and it soaks up the ink more, and you can draw longer. I had one that I carved here, but I don't know what I did with it. So things like that. Oh, here it is. I just carved this one out of wood, but I haven't used it yet, obviously, because it's still wood colors. But I'm also going to show at highlights these, how you can carve your own. You can just sharpen. This is just a stick that I sharpened, with a pencil sharpener.
Right.
And it works great. Because I don't want, I love the pens. I spend a lot of money on pens that I probably shouldn't spend so much, but it brings me a lot of joy, and it's like a hobby also. And like I said, I'd be working on an old car if I had a garage and didn't live in the city. So I don't want them to think they need this pen to do art. Like, you can just use a stick. Like, you can use Crayola crayons. Like, you can use, I think Matthew Cornell's, his new book is done with ballpoint pen. One of those multicolor.
I love to draw with ballpoint pen.
One of those multicolor ones, but like the big ones. Yeah. And he did a whole book that way. I'm like, that's fantastic.
Yep.
It's good stuff.
For sure.
And the Prang watercolors, those are the best. I don't use the other ones now, but you just pick up a set of Prang watercolors, man. Spray them first, give them a few minutes. They're fantastic. You'll be like right back to your childhood, and like, I remember why I love to do art now. It's not about deadlines. It's just about this red that's in this set.
Right.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, all good stuff. But yeah, my sketchbook, I like live out of my sketchbook. I always have it with me. Yeah, I carry it everywhere, and I have a little tiny one in my pocket too, just in case I'm away from my bag. That has my big sketchbook in it. And like I said, Post-its too are great. Post-its are great too because you can like try to draw something and it's not good, you just throw it out. And then when it's good, you just stick it in your sketchbook. A lot of people have that fear of like messing up in their sketch, but there's also like this trend of like sketchbooks as finished pieces of art per page, and they show them on Instagram, and yeah, it looks great, but that's not really a sketchbook. You're not really figuring out, like, you see me, I'm like drawing different designs and I'm drawing little thumbnails to figure out the picture and the design of the book and or the page or the story, and that's what a sketchbook is, and I'd actually prefer to see that. I still look at the ones that are like these finished drawings on each page in a sketchbook, and I mean, that's great, and I've done like a few like that, but they were actually for places like Colo makes photo albums, and they hired me to like use one as a sketchbook, so then it was like more like finished drawings in there. SciAC too, I don't know if they make them anymore. They're actually really cool sketchbooks, but and I had to draw something and then make something, and then it was like part of a show that they funded, and that was really cool because it was all like these sketchbook people were hiring me to do what I love,
Yeah,
and
that's
so
awesome.
those were a little more finished on each page than I would normally do, just a little bit more. Some pages were still like just like the ones I just showed you, but yeah.
You got to get a handbook to sponsor you to do a
Yeah, if you're listening,
sketchbook.
handbook.
Yeah.
I know, I'm sure they're listening to your podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Speedball. Oh, and I still have my original Speedball lettering book. One of my first paid things to do was my sister worked at a clothing store down the shore on the boardwalk, Kelly, in New Jersey. And her boss needed signs that said like 2 for $5 or whatever the prices were. And back then we didn't have computers that could just print that out for us. Right. So he hired me for a few dollars for like a 5x7 card. For each one, he'd give me $1 or $2. And I would write 2 for $5, whatever. And so I have the Speedball lettering book that showed me how to make the sign letters, sign painting.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I still have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I do things all the time at school, and the teacher's just like, how did you do that? I'm like, because I used to do sign painting, and you just learn the strokes and like the way to do it and how to hold the mark. It's a Sharpie chisel tip, and you just can do it. Yeah, but it's kind of fun. I like the lettering a lot. I do the lettering for my books, and it's a fun part of it. Like, I did really well with typography class, and the teacher designed the first Pepsi logo. Not the first, but the more like 80s one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was fun. So I like that. It's a different kind of part of your brain than like drawing a picture book or a character, like, because a letter has to kind of be a letter. So it's like it's kind of relaxing in a different way because it's a different kind of design. So it's kind of cool. So I like doing those. Yeah.
I don't usually like to do lettering, and I've been doing it more and more. And the corn book that I like, I did this hand lettering, and they're putting it on the cover, and I'm like, I thought that they would take my hand lettering and recreate it, And they're like, no, they're just gonna put it, as is.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's good.
They call it Husk Vetica because it looks like.
I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Very cool. Any other? You mentioned Dave Pasalacqua. Any other mentors you had along the way, like getting you into like actual children's books and the like?
Well, when I was bringing my portfolio around, Richard McGuire, he did a few books, and he was really kind to me, and he introduced me to Howard Reeves at Abrams, and that he gave me my first book. So, so that was really kind of him, because by that time, all the publishers had said no in New York City to me. And so I was going to design firms to maybe they'll have me draw something, and I did get some work that way. I did drawings for Absolute vodka ads. So totally different than children's books. I did the Absolute Upgrade drawing of the guy in coach on the plane, and he looks to the front first class, and it's the shape. So I just did the drawing to propose the idea, and then they, did it for real, like real life, and took a photo. So that was kind of cool. I did a bunch of those ideas. That's the only one that ever got made. And so I was going to all these design places, and then one of them said, "Oh, you should meet my friend Richard Moore. He's an illustrator. He's done children's books." And I was like, "Well, why would he want to look at my stuff? Like, he's not going to give me a job." But I was like, at that point, I was like, "Well, what do I have to lose?" And he was so nice, and he was so kind, and he had done some toys, these puzzles of little faces that all fit together, but the manufacturing process was like killing him because they put them all in the box and the paint hadn't dried, so they all stuck to the box and like all this stuff. And he was just really nice and encouraging. And then he sent me to his friend who was an art director at Abrams, and that's how I got my first book. And also, when I first got out of school, no, not first got out of school, but very soon after I got out of Pratt, somehow I got in my head that I should be at the licensing show, which is not really the right place for me. So I got a booth and I set up all my art, but I did get my first book deal, my second book deal from Candlewick. I got my first deal from Candlewick through that booth because the editor that I had for 20 years was walking around and walked into my booth. And I had the book from Abrams, Puss in Boots, and Shoemaker. She said, "Oh, I want to do a touch and feel book. Would you want to do that with me?" I was like, "Yeah, great." So the money I made from that book canceled out the money I spent on the booth at the show. But where I'm going with this is that Ed Emberley is one of my heroes.
Right. Yeah.
And I was collecting all his books. I have his Punch and Judy book, which no one knows about, and it's fantastic. And so in one of the books, it says he lives with his wife in Ipswich, Connecticut. I want to say I might be wrong on that.
Yeah.
And so I called information because back then he just called. And I said, Ed Eberly in Ipswich, Connecticut. And she gave me the number and I called and his wife picked up. And I said, I'm an illustrator and I just wanted to tell him that, he's a big influence. And I also wanted him to invite him to my licensing show. So she put him on the phone and he was really encouraging. And he was so nice. And he talked to me for a while. And I said, "I have this book and this book by you." And he goes, "Oh, you're the other person that bought that book." And he was just really kind and encouraging. And I said, I'm going to send you an invitation when you come. And he's like, I probably won't be able to make it. Now I realize, how did you expect him to come to that? But I was just like, I didn't know. And so I still sent it to him, but that conversation meant a lot. Like, it kept me going. Yeah. It was like, so yeah. So Ed Emberley, we will say. And then others since I was published, that I've met, like Eric stuff, have been really kind, and Denise Fleming and Kelly Light. Yeah. So yeah. But I also had a great high school art teacher who convinced my dad to send me to art school because my dad did not want me to go to art school. And she pulled him in and had a meeting with him. And she said, "I've only had one other kid that could draw or, create like your son. And he really needs to go to art school." And so my dad, caved and I got to go to Pratt. So that was good. They used to have portfolio things we just went to like a gym in a high school in New Jersey and all the art schools were there. And I got into Pratt like pretty much right then, that day, and I remember the drawing that he loved the most was I drew the building outside the window in Spanish class out across the street from school, through the window. I drew it during Spanish class. And I drew it with ink, and then I went home and watercolored it. And that was the drawing that he liked the most that got me in, which is good because I failed Spanish 3 years in a row. And that teacher hated me. She just couldn't stand me. So it was just like, oh man. Anyway, so yeah. So
some of my best high school drawings I did were in history class and math class.
Yeah, it was so hard.
How'd you do in history and math?
He's not going to say.
That's funny.
Those records are sealed, Kelly?
Yes.
Wow. This has been really nice, guys.
Yeah. So, this is awesome.
Really good.
So we
go ahead.
Do you want me to show you just the few other books I have stacked up and then?
Sure.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
Yep.
Friggin' master.
Yeah.
And I don't know if this is true, but I in art school, someone said he just retired and just went around and drew. But I don't think that's really true, but I like to think of that he just stopped doing his regular job and went around and started drawing.
That sounds like a good life to do that.
Yeah, right? That's what I want.
Yeah.
Senpai?
Yes, I have that.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah.
Yeah, like just
He's
his like
he's one of my
proportions, like these little figures and
Oh,
just the way. Yeah. It's just so good.
Yeah.
What? Say it again? Sorry.
No,
I didn't hear you, Kelly.
Yeah, look at that. Look at that.
Yep.
I just love it.
And then Quentin Blake.
Okay.
So this is a really good one.
I've never seen that one.
Right, let me find. Where's this? Oh, there's actually another one I have that has those. Oh, fine.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So great. And there's a great drawing video of him drawing. And then
YouTube. I give all my students the video to watch of him drawing.
Yeah, on the light box.
An example of like he will draw something directly with ink, and he'll do it like 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. He has one paper that on to the left that's his like practice paper, and then he has his final illustration, and that's how he does it. He gives himself muscle memory, and he just turns and he does his final.
Yeah,
it's like magic.
And then Wallace Tripp.
Oh yeah,
Ooh.
Wallace.
Yeah, I kind of just discovered him.
Look at that.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's so good. And this is Wallace Tripp too. Grandpa's just on the back. Just look at the characters. Like
he's great.
You know,
great.
They're just so good. And then my friend just sent me this.
Yeah.
Nice.
Right? It's Nancy, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're really strange. He's like obsessed with them.
Yeah.
He really is. And so he sent me it, and I love them. They're just so different than I thought they were. I think I was thinking that they were like, wasn't there like a Harvey Comics dot or something?
Right.
Was there a dot or something?
Yeah, there is a dot.
And they was so, right?
Yeah.
Little dot. That's how he wanted. And then
the Sago is like surreal in a lot of ways.
And then my real obsession right now is Shel Silverstein. So this is more his adult stuff.
Oh, okay.
Different dances. I mean, Where the Sidewalk Ends and all those are fantastic. I want to just find one
page
to show you.
Obsession, or did you grow up with him?
I'll tell you my Shel Silverstein story. Again, another class. I had typing class. And back then I was like, why do I need typing class? Because this was before computers, kids. And I sat in the back, and it was like up in this room like above the gym where they did all kinds of stuff. And all the typewriters were there. And I sat in the back, and there was this little bookshelf, and Where the Sidewalk Ends was there. And I was like, what is this book? And I was like, oh, these drawings right away. You know, the drawing on the cover. I was like, oh. And I put it on my lap, and I read it. And then when the teacher would come around, I would pretend to type, and then I'd go back to reading it. So I never learned how to type. But Shel Silverstein was like huge for me. I'm sorry. I want to find one page.
I did not grow up with Shel Silverstein. So it wasn't until I had a kid that then I had the books. And then I kind of realized
the way this
deal
is set up, and then it goes across to this page, and then across.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, and just his line work. And I got he drew a lot for Playboy, but it was all going on location and drawing. So I never knew he did that. And so I got that book, and I was worried. I was like, Playboy? All right. And it's great. It's just him drawing like around different countries and stuff.
Cool.
And it's just, and he draws himself with just like his board under his arm and a bag and, you know, his pens and stuff. And I'm just like, oh man. Yeah. So he's just, I can't find any videos of Shel Silverstein drawing. Supposedly he didn't do any pencil or under drawings or anything. So
I believe it because of the way his line is. I believe it.
But some of them are really like complicated. I'm like, and then I don't know if he went back with some whiteout, if, you know, the thing wasn't quite in front of the other thing. But anyway.
Right.
Rapid fire. I'm ready.
You're ready. Okay.
How many are there? I'm going to win.
One artist I want to ask you about before we get into that real quick.
Sure.
Ronald Searle.
One of my favorites. One of my all-time favorites. Fantastic. He was so good. So my teacher, Dave Pasquale, they were both hired to draw on a job on location. And they were both in the same hotel room. And
wow.
Ronald Searle sitting at the desk, and he drew each piece or character separately, and he was moving them around to figure out the composition. And Dave was kind of like, it kind of ruined it for him because he was such a big fan of him and always thought he just sat down and drew, but he was like composing it or whatever. And so he was just like, I never thought that he did that. But he also drew with Mont Blanc fountain pens and had them numbered like me with like pieces of tape and stuff. So I always loved that. And then he had, so the feud nib, he had a Schaefer pen that he dropped, and so it bent the other way, and it drew like that. So his thick lines are drawn with that, which the feud nib just goes the other way. It's the same principle, though.
Right.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love him. I love Ronald Searle.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. Sal Steinberg, too. I've been looking at him a lot. And there's the Alfred Hitchcock movie that he did the opening credits, The Problem with Harry, or...
Oh, yeah, The Trouble with Harry?
He did the opening credits, and Ronald Searle did the opening credits to The Magnificent Men and Their Flying Machines. So when I had VHS, I used to collect opening titles to movies that were animated and stuff, and put them all on one tape, which you really can't do that anymore, right? Like, I guess on the computer you could do it. I don't know. And then I would just watch that. So I collected a bunch of those different ones.
Oh, there's so many great ones. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of like cool ones back in the 50s and 60s,
Yeah.
Especially the animated ones.
People need to do that again.
Any other? Who are your favorites?
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, that's a big one, and I could see him in your work. A lot of them, and you mentioned the reportage cartooning, and he did a lot of great.
He did a lot of that. Really good. Yeah.
But of course, Pogo, Walt Kelly Pogo.
Yeah, totally.
It's like totally different type of line, but still the line itself is very important, part of it. I just picked this up. He's not an older artist, but one I've gotten into, just came out.
Yes. Is that Red Riding Hood?
She's in there, yeah.
Yeah. I think I have that one.
I love Matthew Forsythe.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Matthew. He did Pogo or Poco. Yeah. And Mina. Mina's a great book.
Yeah, that's
I haven't quite figured out how he even does all that.
Right.
I think it's paint, and then maybe, I don't know, the way he does like colors and shapes and the positive and negative against each other is really good.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah,
so
fantastic. Good. So
yeah, he's really good. Very good.
Well,
you should do like a podcast or something. You should do this with more people. This is a good idea.
I think you might be the 9th, maybe.
Oh, cool.
8 or 9th person we've
getting up there. Yeah.
We've interviewed so far, but this has been awesome. I knew it would be.
Yeah.
Right. I didn't have a momentary doubt that this wasn't gonna launch like a rocket ship. I knew that it would. Yeah. So, but it's super fun to be able to do it and ask you these questions, even though I enjoyed it. I know you well. It's
you probably knew some of it, but yeah,
to make you answer specific things. Yeah. And I think that also whoever watches it will get a lot out of it, because you just surely shared a whole hell of a lot in a short amount of time. So it was pretty great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
One last thing.
I had a lot of fun. It was awesome.
Ask you where we can find you or where others can find you online.
Yeah.
I'm on Instagram, but I've been off of social media for a while, but I should maybe start posting soon. I think Stevlight, but if you put in Stephen Light, you'll see my picture. Here I am.
Yes.
And then do you still do the wwws? www.stevelighart.com is my website. And my books are on Amazon and Candlewick. And there's lots of videos of me singing songs and drawing and my studio and everything. Yeah. So as my niece said, who didn't know until she Googled me, he's famous. There's a lot of videos about him. So I don't, it's like, well, kind of, but not really. But yeah, if you want to really see my video, there's like the Princeton blog. I can't remember the name of the blog, but they came and filmed. Oh no, there's All the Wonders has a video of my studio, and then Princeton has some pictures.
I'll find
between the two,
you'll find it and share the link.
Okay, yeah. So there's, and then like I said, me drawing and singing and all kinds of things. So
yeah.
yeah. Awesome.
Right.
This has been so much
Yeah,
fun. You guys are great.
I hope
So great. Yeah. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Keep drawing.
I'm